Let's take a walk through this claustrophobic 90-minute trial masquerading as football. Because that's what it felt like, didn't it? A trial. One of those long, grinding ones where you don't know if justice is coming or if you've just wasted your life in the gallery watching people miss the point. Botafogo made it through. Atletico Madrid are out. And that first half? That was the feeling of trying to punch through concrete. Let's start with that. Let's start with the weight. Atletico came in needing not just a win, but a statement. 3 goals. A 3-goal win to claw their way out of Group B and into the light. But the first half wasn't a mission. It was a migraine. You could see the nervous tension from kickoff. The ball moved like it was wearing ankle weights. Every pass, every run, it all felt 2 seconds behind the beat. And credit where it's due. Botafogo had no intention of giving an inch. Their shape was compact, their bodies behind the ball, and their purpose sharp. You'd think a team that already did the math and knew they could lose and still go through would maybe ease off the throttle a bit. Nope. They looked like they were trying to exorcise Atletico from the pitch. And then there's Atletico. You want to scream at them sometimes, don't you? With all that talent, all that muscle memory of big games, and yet they start matches like they're just trying to remember the Wi-Fi password. Julian Alvarez was buzzing. Sure, he always is. If he had 5% more support in that half, he might have created something devastating. Instead, he's darting in and out, linking up with Sorloth, appealing for penalties with the desperation of a man asking the universe for a sign. Oh, and the penalty, that wasn't? Let's talk about that. We all saw it. Alvarez goes down in the box, the referee's earpiece crackles to life, and the long walk to the monitor begins. You're thinking, this is it. This is the key. This is the moment Atletico pry open the door. But nope. Video assistant referee decides there's a foul before the foul. Something about Sorloth with a push. Honestly, it was the footballing equivalent of being told your lottery ticket was a winner until they spot a smudge on the barcode. That moment, more than any, defined the half. Because you could see it break something in Atletico. Not fully, not permanently, but enough to twist the vibe. From hope to hesitation, from belief to bureaucracy. Now don't get me wrong, they still had shots, they had set pieces, they had possession, they had everything but that single elusive thing that Botafogo seemed to bottle. Conviction. Every Atletico cross was swallowed by Botafogo shirts like a well-rehearsed ritual. Every second ball, every loose pass, every ricochet seemed to land in the path of a white jersey. And Botafogo? They were comfortable. They were enjoying it in that nasty, smug way that teams do when they know the other side needs it more. Every tackle won was a small symphony. Every clearance felt like a punchline to a joke only they were in on. And their forward line? They weren't there to score. They were there to frighten. Every now and then they'd slingshot a counterattack just to remind Atletico what a real threat looked like. By halftime, it was still 0-0, but spiritually, it already felt like 1-0 to Botafogo. Not on the scoreboard, but in the air, in the rhythm, in the grimace of Diego Simeone as he paced like a man who knows the dinner is burning but still can't find the fire. That first half didn't just slip away. It bled away, slowly, painfully. One misconnection, one denied penalty, one blocked shot at a time. And when the whistle blew, it wasn't just the end of a half. It was the pause between panic and desperation. Atletico walked off needing 3, having gotten none, and watching the tournament edge closer to the door. Then came the second half, and with it, the ghosts. Simeone did what managers do when the walls start closing in. He reached for magic. Antoine Griezmann, the man who can make gravity look like a suggestion, came on. And immediately, you felt it. Like someone turned the lights on in a room that had been gray for hours. His first contribution? Slicing through the left flank like he was cutting into a ripe mango and slipping past defenders with that unbothered elegance that's all flicks and geometry. Then the shot. Off the post. Tight angle, yes. But it kissed the upright and reminded everyone that Atletico might still have breath in their lungs. And yet, Botafogo did not blink. This is where the mood shifted. Not tactically, emotionally. Because Botafogo didn't shrink. They doubled down. Every tackle got a little fiercer. Every defensive rotation was like watching chess pieces defend the king. And the goalkeeper, John, Dear sweet merciless John became a brick wall with arms. He caught, palmed, punched, smothered. If someone dropped a piano on that goal, John would have found a way to parry it out for a corner. But still, Atletico kept coming. Not beautifully, not elegantly, but persistently. Like a horror movie villain you can't quite kill, even after the credits roll. And what followed was a masterclass in missed opportunity. Alexander Sorloth. Oh, dear sweet Alexander Sorloth. You don't go into a match with the highest expected goals in the tournament just to leave us with that many near misses. He had headers, he had sitters, he had that one chance from 6 yards out that somehow inexplicably went wide, as if the ball itself had decided to reject the concept of fairness. And here's the thing about those misses. They weren't just technical errors. They were mood killers. Every time the ball scraped wide or hit a defender's boot or got smothered by John, you felt the oxygen drain from Atletico's ambition. Meanwhile, Botafogo had the audacity to keep playing. Not just defending, but daring. Igor Jesus danced into the box and forced a save out of Oblak that had real venom on it. Montoro came on and immediately started probing the left. They were acting like the match was still up for grabs, which is either deeply arrogant or deeply admirable, depending on how much caffeine you'd had before watching. Substitutions kept flying in like emergency exits. Molina, Correa, Lino, all thrown into the mix like dice in a last-chance gamble. And it almost worked. Atletico had wave after wave of pressure, 17 shots from inside the box. 17. That's not just a stat, that's a psychological thriller. But the minutes ran down. The clock betrayed them. Every corner that came to nothing, every blocked shot, every whistle that didn't bring a penalty, each one was a pinprick in the dream. Until finally, at minute 86, the inevitability we were all bracing for finally arrived. Griezmann scored. It was a goal carved from a moment of sheer desperation, assisted by Alvarez, and struck with that cold, left-footed certainty only he can produce. 1-0. And it was beautiful. But it wasn't enough. Not by a mile. It was like finding a $20 bill after your car's already been towed. Even after the goal, Atletico kept hammering. Lino tested John again. Lenglet nodded one from close range. Correa tried to create chaos, but by then it was no longer a match. It was a ceremony. A funeral with crosses instead of flowers. The final whistle felt merciful and cruel in equal parts. Botafogo, bloodied, bruised, brilliant, had done it. Not by winning the night, but by surviving it. Atletico? They'd won the battle, technically, but lost the war in every way that matters. And so they walked off, heads low, spirits lower, the noise of the tournament growing distant behind them. Let's talk about the two teams, shall we? Because matches like this don't happen in a vacuum. They happen between identities. And Botafogo and Atletico Madrid could not have approached this with more contrasting emotional blueprints. Botafogo, my word. If there were ever a team that embodied the phrase backs against the wall but eyes on the horizon, it was them. This wasn't football. It was trench warfare in designer boots. They came into this match not just knowing they didn't need to win, but knowing Atletico had to. And they weaponized that pressure. They made it part of their kit. While Atletico were trying to build something, Botafogo were out there burning bridges, setting fire to momentum, and dancing in the smoke. Every second Botafogo were on that pitch, they were the embodiment of unity. Not flashy, not even that fluid, but synchronized in that terrifying way that only desperate people can be. Every foul was tactical. Every clearance was psychological. They made Atletico play their game, in their rhythm, on their terms. And for a team that wasn't even technically winning, that's diabolical. And there's something beautifully irrational about them. They knew a 3-goal loss would end them, but they still played with ambition when it counted. Not a lot, but just enough to sting. They weren't just 12 men behind the ball with prayer beads. They had intent. Igor Jesus and Savarino didn't just chase shadows. They created them. They made Atletico hesitate, just for a second. And in knockout football, hesitation is death. But now we pivot to Atletico Madrid, or more accurately, to the echo chamber of frustration that follows them around. This team is built like a juggernaut and plays like a mime troupe. You look at the names, Griezmann, Alvarez, De Paul, Sorloth, and you expect brutality. You expect precision. Instead, you get this emotional soft jazz of missed chances and almosts. They move the ball with purpose, they swarm, they shoot, they try, but it's all teeth and no bite. Let's be honest, Atletico are the kind of team you only realize are dangerous after they've beaten you. But in this game, they were exposed. Not because they didn't create. They did, but because when it mattered, when the air got thick and the pulse got loud, they played like a team more afraid of failure than obsessed with victory. Simeone looked like a man possessed. He kicked every blade of grass with his eyes. He lived each minute like it was a countdown to self-destruction. And yet, even he couldn't will that team over the line. He brought on every attacking option he had. He changed shapes, shifted personnel, chased ghosts. But the players never looked like they believed they'd get 3 goals. 1, maybe. 2 if the wind changed. But 3? Not tonight. And here's the cruel irony. For all the structural integrity, the experience, the reputation, Atletico are out. They leave the tournament with statistics that scream dominance and a result that whispers failure. 23 shots, 17 inside the box, over 3 expected goals, 1 actual goal. You can hang that on the wall of a museum dedicated to missed opportunity. Meanwhile, Botafogo, the underdog, the outlier, the team with just enough defiance in their DNA, march into the next round. Not because they were better on paper, but because when the lights were brightest and the stage the most demanding, they played like a team that knew exactly what was required. And let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't a clash of titans. It was a case study in emotional management. Botafogo didn't outplay Atletico. They outlasted them. They outthought them. They turned a football match into a slow-motion panic attack for 96 minutes. And Atletico never really found the rhythm to breathe. And now, let's dive in. The individuals. The ones who actually carried this psychological opera on their backs. Because matches are won and lost by teams. Yes. But moments? Moments are born from people. Let's start with Griezmann. He came off the bench at halftime and immediately reminded everyone why he's still one of the most complete forwards in the world. Not flashy in that desperate look-at-me way, just devastatingly effective. His movement is like water. His awareness? Psychic. The goal he eventually did score wasn't just a reward. It was an inevitability. It had to happen. And yet, as poetic as it was, it also felt like the final chapter of a book you knew had a tragic ending. Beautiful, but useless. And that's the rub. He was brilliant. But he came on as a substitute in a match where Atletico needed heroes from minute 1. That's not on him, but it is a question. Then there's Julian Alvarez. This man plays like a caffeine-addicted chess prodigy. Every pass, every run, every dart into the box, it all has purpose. And the penalty that wasn't? You could see it in his eyes. He knew that was his moment. He was pulling Atletico toward salvation by sheer force of will. But instead, he got a video assistant referee explanation and a free kick for someone else's push. Life is cruel. Football is crueler. He also assisted the goal. Of course he did. Because if anyone in red and white deserved to walk away from this with dignity intact, it was Alvarez. Not flawless, but relentless. And isn't that what you want from your striker? Then we have Alexander Sorloth. Sorloth. A man with numbers on his side and demons in his boots. The highest expected goals in the tournament going into the match, and he left it with his reputation intact statistically and in tatters emotionally. He had chances. So many chances. Some of them the sort that don't just haunt strikers, they end them. 6 yards out. Unmarked. Header wide. You don't miss those and sleep well. He linked up well, sure, he fought, he created space. But the job of a striker isn't to look useful, it's to be lethal. And when the dust settles, his night will be remembered not for his positioning, but for what could have been. From the other side, let's talk about John, the goalkeeper for Botafogo. If you're a striker, he's your sleep paralysis demon. Shot after shot, header after header, he didn't just save them, he absorbed them. Like some kind of divine sponge. You get one of those nights maybe once in a career, and John made sure his came on the night it mattered most. He didn't just play the game, he stole it. And then there's Gregor. The engine, the wall, the enforcer. He racked up fouls like a collector, sure, but every one of them was a message. Not here. Not today. Yellow card? Fine. He'd take 10 if it meant stopping one Atletico attack. And that mentality spread. It infected the rest of the team. That willingness to bleed a little to protect the whole. Mateo Ponte, Montoro, even Igor Jesus, none of them were spectacular. But they didn't have to be. What they were was present, fully. No wandering minds, no loose ends. They played the game with tunnel vision and iron lungs. And Simeone? You want to feel for the man. You really do. But part of you wonders if he overcooked it. If by the time he threw Griezmann on, he'd already spent so long trying to control the chaos that the chaos had just moved in. Rented a room, started a podcast. So that's how it ends. Not with a bang, not even with a proper collapse. Just with a low, heavy thud of disappointment, wrapped in individual brilliance that came too late or missed by too little. Botafogo advance, Atletico unravel. This has been Across the Pitch. Over and out.